Hello everyone and welcome back to Paperback Journeys, where today I'm going to be talking about 7 books that are being released, or some of them have already been released in 2024, that I'm most excited about. The things that, there's got a lot of buzz out there, and I've caught the bug. There's going to be a mixture of horror, sci-fi, some fantasy in here, so if you're in the mood to get hyped about some books, then stick around. The first book I'm most excited about for 2024 is Horror Movie by Paul Tremblay, and that's going to be released on June 11th. This book is a take on the cursed film theme that's quite popular, I think, in horror fiction. It's set around the creation of an art house movie titled Horror Movie, which was released by guerrilla filmmakers in the 1990s. The film becomes infamous for being extremely disturbing, even though only 3 of its scenes were ever released to the public. And it kind of gains this passionate cult following. And then fast forward 30 years to today. I can't believe the 90s was 30 years ago. I swear it was 5. It was 5 years ago. Anyway, modern day, there's this kind of campaign and this crowdsourcing to have a modern adaptation of the Horror Movie released as a big budget feature film. And they find the last remaining cast member from the original and kind of bring him back into the spotlight. And as far as I'm aware, he kind of has to face 2 horrors. He has to face the horror of reliving his past and the traumatic events of creating the original, but also the kind of horror of modern day cynical Hollywood as everyone tries to cash in on something which for him was very traumatic. So this sounds like it's got the potential to be very dark. So yeah, Horror Movie, definitely excited to read that in June. The next book that I'm really excited to read is Some Like It Darker by Stephen King, and that is released on May 21st, which is my birthday. So I know what I'm getting for my birthday. This is a collection of brand new short stories from Stephen King. Last year I read Everything's Eventual, which is a collection of, I think it's 15 stories, and I really liked them. I didn't realize that Stephen King was so good at writing short stories. I'd mostly read his kind of big epics like The Stand and the Dark Tower series and It and some other things. But yeah, Everything's Eventual was just, there was some absolute bangers in there, if I'm being honest, some real gems, and I was really glad that I read it. So this new collection of short stories, we got to see if the boy still got it, As the title suggests, these stories are kind of about the scarier and the weirder side of life. We're talking about fate, death, luck, kind of weird moments that can make everything go sideways. I think that's pretty standard, honestly, for Stephen King books. The stories include Rattlesnakes, which is, as far as I understand, a follow-up from Cujo. I never read Cujo, so now I'm gonna have to read Cujo before this book comes out. And it's about a guy who moves to Florida and receives an inheritance, but it's kind of complicated. And then there's the Dreamers, which is has a Vietnam vet, and Vietnam is like a period of time and a topic which Stephen King covers in some of these other books as well. He's kind of finding out some things about the universe that are better off not to know. Kind of vague, right? And then The Answer Man is a deep dive into whether knowing the future is actually a good thing or not a good thing, especially when life's been really tough. So, these all sound kind of vague and ambiguous enough to go in cold, but also enough to pique my interest. Really excited about this one. The next book up is actually already been released. It was released in late January, and that is Womb City by Clo Sasi. This is set in a kind of weird future where babies are grown in government-controlled artificial wombs, and people are able to switch their consciousness between bodies, but they have to agree to be monitored all of the time. So that's part of the agreement that they have to sign up for to be able to have this ability, I think. And the main character, Neela, is a celebrity with kind of money and fame, but she's trapped in a relationship with a cop who can microchip and monitor her at all times. Nightmare relationship. During a kind of wild night, she gets into a car wreck and she hits someone. The ghost of her victim comes back to hunt down everyone that she loves. I would imagine through this kind of ability to jump between bodies. So I think it's going to be really kind of mind twisty and complicated. I really like this idea of creating a ghost through scientific means, right? Through the use of technology. This is so like the ghost is more scientific than supernatural. This is a concept that I haven't read before. So yeah, I'd be excited and interesting to see which direction this book goes in. The next book was also released in late January, and that is Your Utopia by Bora Chung. This is like a collection of short stories, and it's like a crazy mix of horror and surrealism, and I think a lot of dark humor as well. These stories are all set in a kind of near and distant future, and they're all about these kind of bizarre fates of humanity, right? They're kind of like all alternate realities where the different ways in which humanity can end. So to give you an example, one of the ways in which humanity can end is with a kind of disease which creates casual cannibalism. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say that word. Let's just call it casual people eating. Right, I'm not sure what words I'm allowed to say on certain platforms, so I have to sort of play around with it, and it can be fun. People eating sounds more fun, doesn't it? Another threat to humanity in this book is a world in which people can be criminally prosecuted for the dreams that they have. If they dream of immoral acts, they can be arrested for those dreams. I know it's a cliche to say this, but it sounds very Black Mirror, don't it? It sounds very Black Mirror. So yeah, I'll be excited to read this one. I haven't picked up a copy yet, but yeah, this was released in late January. So if you want to pick up a copy, it's available. The next book that I'm really excited to read that's being released in 2024 is Calypso by Oliver K. Langmead. This one is being released in April 2nd, so not too long to wait. And this is a sci-fi book about an engineer named Rochelle who is put into kind of cryostasis. She wakes up only to discover that the ship that she was traveling through the stars on is no longer a ship, but it's like a massive forest now. And she wakes up to be met by all of the descendants of the crew that she set off with. And when she wakes up, it's like they see her as this saint, you know, she's one of the original crew. Wow. Her and a couple of the other new crewmates, the descendants of the original crew, kind of explore the ship together. One of the crewmates, I think, can actually communicate directly with plants. So obviously these people have evolved. I don't know how long she was in cryosleep for, but I really like these sci-fis where people kind of go under for centuries and then they wake up and everything's different. The world is different and they get to explore it. I think that's always fascinating to me. The next book being released in 2024, actually, when this comes out, I think it already would have been released. It is Tomorrow's Children by Daniel Polanski, and that's going to be released on February 27th. So yeah, that's going to be out. This is set in a kind of post-apocalyptic Manhattan where a smog has just filled the streets and everyone has separated themselves into gangs. I mean, it sounds fascinating. I'm a little bit nervous about it because even though when I first heard about it, the synopsis, I thought, you know, this is a bit of me. I read some reviews of early releases and a lot of people seem to be complaining about the overuse of future language, and sometimes that can be a little bit distracting. I don't know. I don't know. It sounds good enough that I at least want to give it a chance. The next book being released in 2024 that I'm interested in reading is Ghost Station by S.A. Barnes. The protagonist of this book is a doctor, and it's about her and her crew who have to sent to a planet which was previously inhabited but is now a dead planet, and they need to go and investigate and find out what happens to the inhabitants of this planet. I think it's like a mixture of obviously sci-fi, but horror as well, and maybe a little bit of mystery detective work that the crew have to do. As they begin to explore the planet, it slowly becomes apparent that maybe the crew that she's with know more than they're letting on. Maybe there's something that they know that she doesn't know. What I'm hoping for with this book is some really kind of atmospheric writing. I want to feel that chill going down my spine as they land on the planet and they're looking around and slowly finding clues about what happened here as they unravel the mystery. That's what I'm really expecting, and that's what's got me excited to read Ghost Station, that mixture of sci-fi and horror. And another book that's coming out this year, this is a little bit of a cheat really, because it's not an original publication, but it's the paperback version of Lightbringer, which is the next in the Red Rising series. I don't mess about with hardbacks that much. I try to avoid hardbacks. It's already out in hardback, but it's coming out in paperback. And currently I'm reading my way through the Red Rising series, and if you'd like to see my review of non-spoiler review of Red Rising, the first book in the series, then you can click up here. Thanks so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it, and happy reading.